I live on top of the hill. But every day I go down to the village to buy the food that I'm going to cook that night. Welcome to what's left of the Italian-American neighborhood in San Francisco. I'm Gianni, and this is my North Beach. You're in for a treat. Today I'm making my absolute favorite dish in the whole world, Melanzane alla Parmigiana. Very simple eggplant dish baked in the oven with some tomato sauce, some basil, some parmigiano-reggiano, and some mozzarella. Okay, enough talking. Let's get in the kitchen so I can make this eggplant parmigiana. Okay, here we go. Let me show you what we're going to be working with today. I've got some San Marzano tomatoes. So these are right out of the can from Italy, and it's the whole tomato, and you just crush this up pretty fine with your hands, remove any stems that might be in there. And we're simply going to flavor this with some garlic, some fresh basil, and some oregano, wild oregano from Calabria, dried on the branch. These will be our flavoring agents for the sauce. And then we've got the eggplant, the star of this dish. We're going to fry this up in an egg wash. That's going to be flavored with some pecorino and some parsley, salt and pepper. And I've got some Parmigiano over here and basil that I'm going to use when we assemble the casserole and put it in the oven. And of course we have some fresh cow's milk mozzarella. So let's start with the sugo. So a little baboom here, and I'm just going to crush that a little bit more because we want to get as much surface as we can here to infuse the garlic flavor into the oil. I'm not starting with a hot pan here, just putting some olive oil into the pan, and we're going to let both the garlic and the olive oil come up to temperature together. So the oil's coming up to temp, you can hear a little bit of that sizzle, and what I want to do is just get the oil from the garlic, flavor of the garlic into the oil. And you see sometimes I'll do it like this, see how it's sizzling down there? So I think that's good because the garlic will stay in there when we add the tomatoes, which I'm going to do right now. And we should get a nice sizzle sound when the tomatoes hit the hot oil. That's important. Nice. This is a pretty quick cook sauce, so we're not going to have to mess with it too much. But I do want to incorporate the garlic-infused olive oil into the tomato. Wow, that really worked well. We'll just take a bunch of organic basil, and we're going to throw that right in here. I'm coming back and getting my Calabrian oregano. I want a little bit of this flavor into this sauce. So this is really gorgeous. This is wild oregano, and these are the flowers up at the top, and basically what you do is just break it off and let it rain into the sauce. We're going to use a little bit, not that much. I just want this to be an undertone flavor in the sauce. If you get any of these little stems in there, just pick them out. It's my Sicilian sea salt in the grinder. And then we're just going to put the top on this and let it on a low simmer, a little bit of jar to let that moisture continue to evaporate. So anytime I do this kind of fry with the eggplant, I use a combination of oils. So I'm putting maybe a tablespoon or two of canola oil, a little bit of the extra virgin olive oil in there too. So when you buy your eggplant, you want one of these globe-shaped eggplant. You want to make sure that it's firm to your touch. If it's a little mushy, you don't want it. It's been off the vine too long. You want to make sure it's shiny and it's got a firm texture. So I'm just going to remove the stem end, and that looks pretty good. See that nice white-green color? So I'm just going to slice this up in about half-inch slices. You don't want it too thick, but you don't want it too thin either, because you want these slices after they're done frying and baking in the oven to maintain some of their texture. This is an important step. After you slice your eggplant, you want to salt it, because eggplant tends to have a little bit of a bitter liquid in it. We got lucky today because There's no seeds here, but I want to make sure that I get some salt on both sides. And then we're going to let it sit in a colander to drain. And you'll notice that after maybe about 15-20 minutes, the eggplant's going to start exuding a little bit of a brown liquid. And then, whoops. So here's those eggplant slices that I coated with salt and put in the colander to draw off some of the bitter liquid. I've washed the salt off, very important. Otherwise you're going to end up with a very salty Parmigiano. So let me show you what we're going to do for the egg wash. Very simple. I'm going to take a couple of eggs. And a couple of eggs would probably be good for a medium-sized eggplant. If you're going to fry more than that, you may want to increase the number of eggs. I don't put Parmigiano into the egg wash. What I do is I put this pecorino. It's a sheep's milk cheese, and it's a little bit more stronger flavor than the Parmigiano. And I like to put that anytime I'm making an egg wash. And then the other thing I have here is just some organic parsley that I've done in a very rough chop. And we want a little bit more of the parsley to shine through when we're going to put it in the egg wash and fry it. Into this bowl, I'm going to give it a little bit of crushed black pepper and a little bit of a grind of the sea salt. Now, we took all the salt off the eggplant, so now I have to put salt back in to make sure we have a good salt balance here. So we're just going to mix this up. Try not to let it get away from you. Jump out of the bowl, that parsley. There's a controversy in this recipe that I'm going to show you when we get over there. Here's the controversy in the family and among my friends. I make my eggplant parmesan simply by taking the eggplant, putting in flour and egg wash, and from the egg wash directly into the hot oil. My sister says you got to bread it, but I don't bread it because I think the bread coating, when it's mixed with the tomato sauce and the mozzarella, is going to get soggy. It doesn't add anything to the dish. It just makes it a little gloopy, and I don't like that. That's why I only do flour, egg wash, and in. So these are the salted eggplant that we washed and dried. Stick them in here. And you want to get just a light coating of flour on there. And then just make sure on both sides they're coated with the egg wash. And I'm going to put it right in. See, the oil's nice and hot. You hear that sizzle? So that's going to seal the outside of the eggplant. So if you didn't get egg wash all over, you can just kind of fix it up here with a... And then sometimes I like to take some of the cheese and the parsley, if it hasn't already adhered to the top, because I want these flavors to be on every slice of the eggplant. So I'll just kind of take some out and put it on. Put a little bit over here. But before I finish them up, let me show you the other alternative method, which is not my favorite. So you're going to do the flour into the egg wash, flour into the egg wash, and then instead of going right into the hot oil, these other people put it in breadcrumbs. And then put this into the hot oil. So just put this in here. I'll do one more for you and we'll see how they all turn out. And I'll turn these a couple more times to get them to brown up. But I like to get the egg wash to set on both sides, and then I'll move these around so that they cook evenly. These are the two with the breadcrumbs. These are the three without. And they're going to be kind of fork tender. So you'll know that they're cooked all the way through. Let them drain on paper towel. You want to get rid of as much of the oil as possible. So here's our fried eggplant and our tomato gravy or sauce. And we're going to assemble, but I just want to show you the difference between the two fried eggplant. These are all the eggplant that I cooked up just in flour and egg wash. This is what I'm going to use. But just to satisfy people, you can also add that third step when you're flouring, egg washing. You can add breadcrumbs, and you'll end up with this kind of thing as opposed to just in the egg wash. Now again, I don't like the breadcrumbs because I think once we put them in here and bake them in the oven, that breadcrumb is going to come off and just make the dish a little bit too gloppy. I don't like it, so I just like the egg wash. That'll stay intact and adhere to the slices. But this is good eating, so you may see me after it cools a little bit taking a couple of bites off those ones with the breadcrumbs. Just going to put a little bit down in the bottom, not a lot, just to moisten the bottom of the pan a little bit. And then we're just going to start layering this. And I want the nice big pieces up on the top, because that's what's going to show when we serve this dish. And maybe one more this size here. Okay, so we got those all down. So then I'm just going to add a little bit more of the sauce. Not a lot. We don't want a lot of moisture in this dish. So I'm just going to kind of dot these. Reduced sauce. I just want sauce to flavor the dish, but I don't want it to become too moist, too wet. So here's the Parmigiano-Reggiano. You can always has that stamp on the rind, so you know you're getting the good stuff. And I'm just going to take a little bit of this and sprinkle it lightly right on top of the tomato to melt into the tomato sauce. Now, I saved some of my organic basil, because a lot of times when the basil's nice, I just like to rip it up. And this fresh basil is going to augment the flavor of the basil that we put into the tomato. The fresh cow's milk mozzarella. So I'm just going to place this around. And if some of these slices are too big, I'm going to just break them in half. Because again, you just want a little bit of this cheese. But this is all going to get covered, so it doesn't have to be perfectly shaped. We'll pay a little bit more attention to the next layer. Put a second layer on. A little bit of the tomato sauce. Just a dab will do you. Oop, there's that garlic. I don't want that on there. Get off of there. Remember when on the underneath one, I put the Parmigiano on top of the tomato sauce. Here I'm putting the mozzarella first. And then I'm going to put the Parmigiano, and I'll tell you, there's a reason for that. If the Parmigiano's on the top, the heat of the oven is going to make it pick up a little bit of a brown color. So I like that. And again, not a lot. Just sprinkle it, see? Oh yeah, this is looking good. Very nice. There we go. You don't want to bake this too much. You want to still have some elasticity in the mozzarella, or else it's going to be like a piece of cardboard. So I took it out a little early. So even here, where I got some nice color on it, see how it's pretty flexible? That's what you want, so you can really get the nice flavor and texture of the mozzarella. Okay, the eggplant's cooled off enough, so now I get to taste it for you. But really, look at this. Look at the golden color of the tomato sauce. There's not a lot of excess liquid there. The really nice brown on the mozzarella with the Parmigiano, allowing to brown up a little bit. I love this dish. I love to make it. I love to eat it. The eggplant's soft, mild, a little bit sweet. I just got a piece of that basil I put in the layers down there. Tomato sauce has got a good texture to it. It's not runny. Really strong tomato flavor. Melanzane alla Parmigiano, eggplant baked in the oven with mozzarella, tomato, and Parmigiano cheese. My absolute favorite dish in the whole world. It's kind of ready, that old piece.